Exploring the Kings of Brazil, a Royal Legacy. Welcome to a captivating exploration of a unique chapter in Brazil's history, the era of the Brazilian Empire. From its proclamation of independence to its eventual transition to a republic, Brazil was a monarchy ruled by just two sovereigns, Dom Pedro I and Dom Pedro II. These two emperors led the nation through formative years filled with ambition, transformation, progress, and turbulence. Today, we delve deeper into their reigns to understand how they shaped the trajectory of a budding nation. Let us step into Brazil's past and examine the legacy of these royal figures, connecting their actions to the country's modern identity and how they resonate in historical analysis even today. In the early 19th century, Brazil was a colony under Portuguese rule. However, global events were rapidly reshaping colonial dynamics. Napoleon's invasion of Portugal in 1807 had forced the Portuguese royal family to flee to Rio de Janeiro, establishing the Portuguese court in Brazilian territory. This event inadvertently elevated Brazil's importance within the Portuguese Empire. By the 1820s, Brazil was ready to assert its independence. Dom Pedro I, the son of Portuguese King João VI, played a pivotal role in this transformative moment. As Prince Regent of Brazil, Dom Pedro faced increasing pressure from Brazilians demanding autonomy. In 1822, despite pressure from Portugal to return to Europe, Dom Pedro famously declared, "Independence or death." On September 7, 1822, Brazil broke free from Portuguese dominion, marking the birth of the Empire of Brazil. Crowned as Brazil's first emperor, Dom Pedro I held great promise. However, building a stable monarchy for a massive, diverse territory proved far more complex than declaring independence. Dom Pedro III's reign, 1822-1831, was a mix of ambitious reforms and divisive politics. His most significant contribution was the introduction of Brazil's first constitution in 1824. This document established the empire as a constitutional monarchy, with defined powers for the emperor and a parliamentary system. For a nation transitioning from colonial subjugation, this was a groundbreaking political framework. However, cracks began to form in Dom Pedro's leadership style. He was often criticised for favouring Portuguese elites over native Brazilians, which fueled resentment among different social classes. His relationship with political factions deteriorated, and rebellions against imperial authority cropped up in provinces, highlighting the challenges of governing such a vast nation. Internationally, Dom Pedro also became embroiled in ongoing conflicts, particularly with Portugal. These constant struggles weakened his domestic standing. By 1831, unable to resolve mounting pressures, Dom Pedro I abdicated the throne in favour of his young son, Dom Pedro II, and returned to Europe. Though his reign lasted less than a decade, Dom Pedro I laid the foundation for Brazil's imperial framework. His emphasis on constitutional governance sowed seeds that would continue to grow under his successor. The story of Dom Pedro II is one of extraordinary endurance and intellect, though his path to power was far from ideal. When Dom Pedro I abdicated, his son was just 5 years old. His youth plunged Brazil into a turbulent period, the Regency era, 1831-1840, when political instability and social unrest threatened the empire's survival. But as Dom Pedro II matured, so too did the dream of a stable and progressive Brazil under his rule. Recognising the instability of Regency rule, political leaders pushed for Dom Pedro's early coronation. At just 14, he was declared emperor in 1840, marking the start of a remarkable near half-century reign. Imbued with a thirst for knowledge, Dom Pedro II developed into a ruler who valued education, science, and culture. Fluent in multiple languages and deeply interested in the arts and sciences, he became known as the Scholar Emperor. His intellectual pursuits would guide many of his policies. Dom Pedro II presided over Brazil during an era of transformative change. His vision for the empire focused on modernization and fostering international ties. Key achievements during his reign included significant progress in infrastructure, education, and scientific advancements. Railways, telegraphs, and improved ports symbolize Brazil's shift from a colonial past toward industrialization. Dom Pedro II was also a vocal supporter of education, funding schools, and championing the value of literacy. These modernizing moves helped Brazil gain recognition on the global stage. Unlike his father, Dom Pedro II adopted a measured and diplomatic approach to leadership, earning admiration at home and abroad. He cultivated a reputation as a monarch who valued constitutional principles, often working in partnership with Parliament, even when tensions occasionally arose. Despite these achievements, Dom Pedro II faced numerous challenges. The most contentious issue during his reign was the institution of slavery. Like much of the Americas, Brazil's economy had long relied on enslaved labor. While global attitudes towards slavery were shifting, abolition was a slow and divisive process in Brazil. Under Dom Pedro II's reign, incremental steps were taken to end slavery. Eventually, the 1888 Golden Law formally abolished slavery. While this move was morally and historically significant, it alienated the influential landowning class, many of whom relied on enslaved labour for their agricultural enterprises. This loss of elite support weakened the monarchy's hold on power. Dom Pedro II's reign was further shaken by growing calls for republicanism. Brazil's intellectuals and military figures began advocating for a republic, inspired by global examples and dissatisfied with the limitations of a constitutional monarchy. These tensions eventually converged, setting the stage for the empire's downfall. The end of Dom Pedro II's reign came not with violent revolutions, but through a quiet coup. By 1889, the political tide had turned against the monarchy. The Republican movement, bolstered by military discontent and wealthy elites' waning support, declared Brazil a republic. Dom Pedro II, ever a man of reason, accepted his exile with little resistance. He refrained from advocating for his restoration, choosing instead to live out his days in Europe. His humility in defeat underscored his commitment to the country's well-being over personal power. He spent his final years reflecting on his reign and the shifts that had reshaped Brazil. The end of the monarchy marked a new chapter for Brazil, but the legacies of Dom Pedro I and Dom Pedro II continue to linger in the nation's identity. Dom Pedro I, though divisive, established the necessary structures for Brazil's independence and constitutional governance. Dom Pedro II, beloved by many, left an enduring legacy as a wise and forward-thinking ruler, steering Brazil into modernity while balancing both progress and tradition. The empire also stands as an intriguing outlier in global history, an independent monarchy in the Americas during a time when most new nations were republics. This imperial experiment serves as a fascinating case study for historians, offering insights into leadership, governance, and the interplay of societal forces. The story of Brazil's kings is one of ambition, transformation, and eventual dissolution. Dom Pedro I and Dom Pedro II, though vastly different in leadership styles, were united by their efforts to define and mould a new nation. They navigated incredible challenges, from independence struggles and internal rebellion to pressures of modernization and abolition. Their reigns stand as a testament to the complexities of leadership during a pivotal era in world history. As we reflect on their legacy, we see a tapestry of triumphs and trials intricately woven into Brazil's national identity. From its imperial roots to its modern republic, Brazil's royal legacy offers valuable lessons about resilience, progress, and the profound impact of individuals on the course of history.